We're back. Thank you so much for joining us on this special edition of the Youth Perspective. Yours truly, Keshagen, J. Adderley. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, we're in season 6, and we've been having ourselves a tremendous time as in terms of bringing you great shows that deal with youth matters, youth organizations, just young people just doing a whole lot of great things. And just recently, and you would have heard the clip at the beginning of the show, for those of you listening in radio or on the podcast, we had a great montage from the work of the late Chadwick Boseman. Just a very short life in terms of acting, 10 movies over the span of 4 years while dealing with colon cancer. And I thought it was imperative to bring light, to shed some light on the subject matter for those who might not have been as aware about colon cancer as some others are. And I myself wanted to find out more information about it. And so it is my pleasure to invite to the Youth Perspective for the first time, but preferably she'll be back and she'll join us again sometime to have more conversations on this subject matter and other subject matters as well. Dr. Gemma Rolle, she joins us on the Youth Perspective, and she is a gastroenterologist. She joins us.
Very good, yes.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
It's so great to have you join us here on the Youth Perspective. And as I said, you know, when I got the news, just like everybody else, you know, they were very shocked to know that somebody can do 10 movies in the course of 4 years while dealing with colon cancer. And a lot of persons would have seen that he would have shrunken in size over that time. But he was still able to do all these stunts and, you know, all these things that you've seen. And so in the starting this conversation, when you look at a person who has colon cancer, what does it look like? What are the symptoms? I mean, you know, how does this work?
Well, first of all, you know, I must say that you may not have any symptoms from colon cancer. But perhaps what may bring a young person such as Chadwick Boseman to the doctor, some symptoms he may have been having may have been blood in the stool or bloody stool, maybe abdominal pain that was unexplained, changes in bowel habits like constipation mainly, but diarrhea as well, and perhaps just weight loss. Sometimes there can be fatigue, which would be more non-specific, but that's the bulk of the main symptoms someone would present with if they wanted to present early or they had to present early. Mm-hmm. So again, the most important thing is that there may not be any symptoms at all. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, mm-hmm. And I know with some cancers, and correct me if I'm wrong by saying this, they are more prevalent in either men or women, or like, I guess maybe they show up more in women and some show up more in men. Is colon cancer something that is more synonymous with men?
So that's a very good question. There are a lot of people out there that feel that this is a man's disease, but men and women equally can be affected by colon cancer. We all have a colon.
Right. And so as we talk about colon prevention, and then how do you get a healthy working colon, I guess, you know, to make sure that it's free from cancer, how do we go about doing that? What is the day-to-day, week-to-week, yearly thing that you can do to improve your chances, or I guess decrease your chances of getting colon cancer?
So when we think about the risk factors for colon cancer, there are some modifiable risk factors. And of course, living a healthy lifestyle where you get regular exercise, you maintain a healthy weight. Your diet is important, where there is a high fiber, low fat diet, limiting your intake in red meats and processed foods. And of course, there's smoking and drinking alcohol excessively that can increase your risk for colon cancer. So eating lots of fruits and vegetables and other fiber-rich foods are important. And then actually speaking to your doctor. So I would think that by the age of 35 or so, you should start having your conversation with your physician. How can I be screened for not only colon cancer, but other cancers? So 35 is a good age for colon cancer to just have that conversation. And your physician would look at things like your family history, your personal history of other conditions and diseases, and consider colon cancer prevention to start even from that time.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask two questions. Let me go with this one first. With men, and because when I saw it, I thought about men at large, and I think when you look at colon cancer, a lot of persons would look at colonoscopy, and so a lot of men would shy away because there is a colonoscopy. Is that something that men should be afraid of getting that?
No one should be afraid of getting a colonoscopy. Colonoscopy is something that's done while you are sedated. Now, the sedation isn't the type of sedation for a major operation. You just get some oxygen, your IV is put into your arm, medication is administered, and you have a gentle sleep. The goal is to keep you as comfortable as possible. So your awareness of what's going on wouldn't be there. So there's different levels of sedation, but you're completely comfortable.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be afraid.
Shouldn't be afraid. Okay. I don't know. It's just sometimes I think with persons at large, maybe because they're not knowledgeable or they don't have the conversations, as you said, with their doctor to find out, what needs to happen. They shy away and they may feel certain things in their body and they say, you know what, I'm just going to take some Advil or, I'm going to take something and lie down. It's going to be all right.
But when we think about colonoscopy, for screening purposes, the colonoscopy is done every 10 years. So that's a long interval between each time you have to go to be screened.
Yeah.
So it's not something that, for example, women need a pap smear every year, and however uncomfortable that may be, we have to do it every year. But colonoscopy, there's a long interval in between. So you have a lot of time to get over whatever your experience is, which is typically a good one to have a colonoscopy.
Yeah. And the funny thing about it, I think you may laugh at this. A few years ago, I was having a conversation with my coworkers, and they asked me when is the last time I had a physical, and I said I never had a physical. This is when I was like around maybe 25, 26, and they literally they riled me out for like an hour, and they said, listen, you have a son, you have a wife, you need to go and get your annual physical. And so I think when we talk about just preventative health, that is like the first thing that you can do. Men, women, everybody, get to your doctor, get to your primary physician, and get that annual physical done.
Absolutely. Very important. And bearing in mind that when you have your annual physical, there should be blood work done.
Yeah.
And sometimes in your blood work, there could be signs that pop up even without you having symptoms that would prompt your physician to evaluate further. Okay. So even if you're feeling fine, and again, brings me back to the fact that there doesn't have to be any symptoms for colon cancer just by getting your blood test done on an annual basis or every 2 or 3 years. In a much younger population, certain things may pop up in your blood test that may suggest something is going on.
Okay. I want to ask you, is colon cancer preventable?
100% preventable, okay, colon cancer. And particularly if we're talking about getting your screening done. Colonoscopy is the only form of cancer screening that will also be preventable, because when we do a colonoscopy, which by the way is putting a camera into the rectum and expanding the whole, going the entire length of the colon, we're looking from the inside and we're able to remove any precancerous lesions at the same time. So precancerous lesions such as polyps are removed at the time of the colonoscopy, and this prevents you from developing colon cancer from those particular polyps.
Now, this is a youth show, and so I must put something in here for the young persons who are listening in. And I always love to talk about this little girl in Rumkey, even though I don't know who she is. But I know that there is a little girl or a little boy listening in Rumkey or, one of the far-flung islands. You are not just a gastroenterologist, but you also have a specialty. in the digestive tract, and also other specialities. And so, I had conversations with other persons about STEM, about science, technology, engineering, and math for girls and young women. And so,
Good.
from your position, what encouragement would you give to young persons, particularly young girls, young women listening to this show, and they want to find out more about what you do, or they want to get into that type of research or that type of medicine? What would be your encouragement?
Well, I would always encourage young persons to ask questions. If it's on your mind and you're intrigued by something, you want to know more about something, just ask questions until you get your answers. I would say when you do your searches on YouTube, you can be very specific regarding if it's a disease process, if it's new gadgets, and just science in general. Do that search on YouTube as opposed to the other entertaining things. I mean, you can still have your entertaining shows, but actually search for answers. There's so many questions in life that we have. We should just seek out those answers to those questions. And of course, staying focused, doing well in school, pay attention. School is a time to learn as much as possible. School is only between the hours of, let's say, 8 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and then the other hours you're free to do what you want, but make sure that you focus while you're in school. Stay focused.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. I thank you so much for that. And young persons, as we gear up to go into the new normal of a new semester and trying to figure that process out, remember to stay focused, the words of Dr. Gemma Rolle. And I guess before we wrap up, is there any other words that you want to share in that colon cancer preventative health area before we wrap up and we get your closing comments?
Okay, so what I have realized since Chadwick Boseman passed away recently, I have gotten a lot of questions, even from patients that I see chronically, and even new ones wondering what can be done, or are they doing the right thing in terms of preventing colon cancer and making sure that they are okay. I know that in our society or in general, people just want to know at what age should I be thinking about these things or looking into these things. First of all, you're never too young to start eating healthy or living a healthy lifestyle, avoiding the things that can shorten our lifespan. And I think we all know what they are.
Right.
At the age of 35, start to have that conversation about your personal history and your family history. Ask your family about the family history. Find out if there were any aunts and uncles, grandaunts, granduncles, cousins that may live on other islands, even people you've never met. Find out about their history, because if there are particular cancers that run through your family, you may be at increased risk, okay, for colon cancer. If there's a family history of colon cancer, depending on the age of the person, you would start having your colonoscopy 10 years prior to their diagnosis. So you may need your colonoscopy even at the age of 35, at the age of 40. All persons should start being screened at 45 years old if they're average risk. If you don't have any increased risk of colon cancer in your family, then you would start at 45 regardless. And then, of course, even for older persons, so the young people that may be listening or watching, if you know that one of your parents have had colon cancer before, or if they've had another cancer that required radiation, they too should be screened on a regular basis for colon cancer. So having one cancer does not eliminate your risk of developing another cancer, and the colon in particular. And then also, if we have some concerns about colonoscopy itself, remember or be mindful that there are other ways to be screened for colon cancer that perhaps are less invasive. Maybe not the gold standard, which is the best form of cancer, colon cancer screening, but there are other methods. So you can speak to your physician about those as well.
Right. The biggest thing is just to ask the question, to get the conversation going.
Get that conversation going.
Yeah. And the great thing is now that even though a lot of persons are in a different working situation, there still are, a lot of free tools that you can use. I've seen a lot of people walking, particularly because I'm out on the road like 5 o'clock in the morning coming to work. And so there's a lot of persons walking, persons going to the beach, even though it's for a shorter period of time, they're getting in early, they're getting in their swim. And so I think, Bahamians and persons at large are doing their best to, try to get in a better shape, a better health regimen. And so you can do those things even if you might not have a big budget or you might not have a lot of monies coming in at this time.
Right, exactly. At least 3 times a week. You can aim for 3 times a week. And if you go to 5 times a week, that's great. For at least a half an hour, get your heart rate up, sweat a little bit. That's always a goal. If you want to know how well you're doing, if you're sweating a bit, your heart rate goes up. And for 30 minutes, you're probably doing a good job.
All right, indeed. Now, Dr. Gemma, before we let you go, any closing comments you want to leave with the listening and the watching audience?
Well, basically, live a healthy lifestyle. Don't take anything for granted. Know your body. Protect it. It's all you have. Be mindful of what you put into it. And see your doctor. Let your doctor become a friend of yours.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Gemma. It was a pleasure to have you on the Youth Perspective. And we will look forward to doing this once again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for the Youth Perspective. Joining us via Zoom in this new normal that we have, the one and only Dr. Gemma Rolle, and she is a gastroenterologist. All right, and of course, she has a specialty in the digestive tract. And of course, she does a lot of wonderful, wonderful things that you can call her and you can find out more information about, and she can give you the gamut of things. And so we thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next Youth Perspective. Have a great evening, everybody.